This story with Eliyahu Navi during the time of a famine. Eliyahu Navi was hiding from the wicked king Achav, who wanted to kill Eliyahu Navi. So Hashem sustained him while he was hiding by sending him ravens every morning and bringing him morning and evening bread and meat. Ravens, usually they're very cruel, but here they brought him in the morning and the evening bread and meat. And the story shows how on the miracle for the prophet that Hashem made, there's a lesson we have to learn from this, that what? Ravens feeding a man is something that you wouldn't read about every single day. It's an unbelievable miracle. And Eliyahu Navi would have never imagined, I'm stuck in hiding, but I shouldn't worry. You know why? Because probably Hashem will send me ravens. There's a big likelihood He'll send me ravens, He'll bring me bread and meat. That nobody would think like that. That's not a normal thing to think. But what? But he trusted in Hashem, and he knew that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will come up with something, and there's a way that He'll feed him. And therefore, a person has to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can send us parnasah in the most strangest of ways. And whatever we need in our life, you think, what do you mean? My case is an open shut case. That's it. I'm going to lose the money. I'm going to go away, or I'm going to go and I'm going to suffer a big loss. And there's no way. All the odds are against me. Doesn't matter. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has many mysterious ways, and we have to believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu can make something from nothing. There's a famous midrash that King Solomon wanted to prove to himself and to others how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is especially putting hashgacha pratit in shidduchim. In shidduchim, he wanted to see it in the hand of Hashem. So what happened? So he took his daughter and he put her on an island, on a big tower that was locked, and there was guarded by a lot of guards. And he said, I want to see how her zivug is going to come to her. I'm going to go find her. Because usually it says the man goes searches for the woman. So therefore he wanted to see where is her zivug going to come from. If she's on this island all alone, obviously she has all her needs taken care of, but how is a man going to get all the way there? So it ended up being the story where there was a poor man who was so hungry, and he was looking and he was schlepping all from place to place trying to make a parnasah. Ended up being that he was in between two cities in the middle of the wilderness, and he was so cold and he didn't know what to do, and he was falling from exhaustion. He found the carcass of a dead animal, and he crawled inside of it in order to keep warm, because that's how poor he was, and he didn't know what to do. He crawled inside and he fell asleep over there. Ended up being a bigger bird came and scooped up part of this carcass and scooped him up inside as well, and flew him somewhere and dropped him off on this island on the roof. And then this little girl wakes him up, and it's his daughter, King Solomon, wakes him up on the top of the tower and says, who are you, what are you, blah, blah, blah. And they start speaking. King Solomon visits her after, many months of her being alone over there, and he sees her that she's holding a baby. And he already is, this is her husband. And he said, what happened over here? He says, this is my husband, we in a ketubah, we got married according to halacha, everything, and this is my child. Ended up being that Kadosh Baruch Hu, he brought zivug to her in such a situation. And King Solomon told the story to everybody in this midrash. Says how Kadosh Baruch Hu can make something from nothing. So there's a story they bring over here that there was a person who experienced this. He says they were living in Israel for many years, and his wife and him moved to America in 1995. At that time, his father met a person in shul, and they was working for the military, his friend, and they started getting the radar. Radar technology became a recent thing in the military. They used to get confused between birds and airplanes, and then they finally got new technology. They were able to go and make the difference. So this person wanted to use this technology in the medical field, and he wanted to go and be able to use the radar technology to find cancer cells. So they were looking for investors. It was called Neuromedical Systems, and his father invested $2,500 for each of his children. So this company grew, and until its height, it was many times the original investment. So his father made a lot of money investing in this cancer radar technology. So this rabbi was living in Deal, New Jersey, and he was visiting an old woman in the hospital. So he was talking to her, and she explained that her son was a stockbroker. And then I mentioned the company. I have a stocks from a very long time ago that my father bought for me. And I told this old lady's son, who's a stockbroker. The stockbroker did some research, and he found out that this company is very risky and might drop. He says, I recommend you sell your shares immediately. And then what happened? We sold, we cashed out, we listened, we pulled all the money out, and ended up being this money was the money he used for a down payment of his house. So when he asked his father a few years later what happened to the company, He says, oh, his father told him this company became bankrupt. After a few months, after they talked to that stockbroker, it became bankrupt. The technology was good, ended up being there was a failure. So I looked back and he said, I would never be able to afford, this is a rabbi speaking, I would never be able to afford a house in Brooklyn. You imagine Ocean Park where all the Syrians live? I'd never be able to afford a house in Brooklyn and I put a down payment by myself. But what? Hashem made it that my father, and a long time ago, invested in this. I ended up meeting this lady, and she ended up telling me about her son. Her son ended up talking to me about stocks. I mentioned by passing what my father bought for me, and then he saved me in the last minute to sell my shares. Ended up being that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made something from nothing. I would have thought I would get money from nowhere to all of a sudden buy a house. No. I thought probably have to work and save money for years to buy a house. No. Hashem in 1 second made it. I was able to have a down payment for my house. So a person has to know, if Hashem gave Eliyahu Navi through the ravens, Hashem could also give us. And you look back in our lives. Remember the last time. Think back to your life. When's the last time Hashem gave you good fortune? And He brought it to you in the most weirdest of ways. And you should remind yourself always, Hashem can make something out of nothing. Baruch